a bit of irony. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. It's a bit of an irony. We're trying to go to a Braided River conference when the reason we can't get here is because of the Braided River. So, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Elsa McGilvery Howard, aho. I've researched banded dotterels in the coastal space for since 2015, just about to go into my 11th season, or is it my 12th season? And my focus is on breeding outcomes, but I have a large database, a pictorial database also, and that has a lot of really interesting wider information about the species. So it's really hard to go into a study without some preconceptions. And I was expecting to find that direct human activity wiped the beach clean. And of course, this is not the case. So my study and interest has expanded quite a lot. The study's never been easy because despite considerable advocacy and a range of efforts that we do to protect nests and chicks, we continue to experience a large number of challenging outcomes. But with this in mind, we should start with something fun. So let's have a picture of a tape of a very headstrong chick in the Braided River system. Can we have the sound of the clip?
Yeah, yep, it's good.
Great.
I feel like I should be doing subtitles for you. It was a general murmur of appreciation from the audience.
Next, yeah, thank you. Banded dotterel are remarkable in their capacity to nest over such a wide temperature and altitudinal gradient. So we see them in the coastal sites throughout New Zealand, or our 3 islands, and on the Chathams. There is also a subspecies on Enderby Island in the Auckland group. So we also, oh yes, the subalpine plateau. Next, please. We have them, so there's our Braided River system, and we have them also nesting in the subalpine zone of the volcanic plateau, and we see them, very surprisingly, they are on those ancient uplifted penny plains of Otago, and we've been able to see them in the Old Man Range and Pisa ranges, and you can see they're at the summit. So dotterels aren't really fussy about the scenery, so they can be seen in some quite scruffy places, but we see that dairy, horticulture, invasive weeds, predation, and particularly intensive viticulture on river terraces actually continues to displace them from many long-term breeding sites. So next, please. We can postulate from our research that as well as a nest site that has a great sky view, which gives them advanced warning from any flying predators, our competition is fierce for the sites that have the most nutrition. So on our left, we have our site. This is a nest distribution site. And what we can see is if you look for the neck of the peninsula, this is our most intense diversity of birds. And we think what happens is the way that the peninsula juts out, we have alternating weather patterns, northerly, southerly, northerly, southerly. And these actually concentrate a local marine circulation and brings nutrition into the neck of the peninsula. And we see that this impact tends to die off with distance. We also see that in the lee of offshore reefs, this is another site of high nutrition, and that is a favoured site. And we also see it doesn't have to be much of a trickle, but the water spilling off the land does bring nutrition. So we do see them even at some quite pitiful river mouths. There they are, they're nesting. So as part of my mahi, I've actually done a lot of walking in the in the gravel beaches of Canterbury and Marlborough. And we always see the same pattern, the reef and the river mouth. So when we get told by local people the birds should go somewhere else. However, this consistent distribution pattern with nutritional hotspots shows that the dotterels have specific breeding needs. So how that plays out is these are areas like Kaikoura, like Kaiteriti Spit, like Tiwai. These areas of abundance are really highly separated. So next, please. Next slide, thank you. It's hard to imagine that with a really, really short growing season and a hostile climate, that these alpine areas can actually meet nutritional needs. However, when we're doing field work in these areas, we see that the plants are full of invertebrate life, and that banded dotterel, it's primarily an invertebrate feeder. Dotterel areas are teeming with life. Next. And this is also apparent in the coastal space where we see them. And from their nest sites, they have easy access to nutritious food. I used to say, why do they nest here? They nest near the fridge. So next, please. One final thing I'm going to say about nutrition is that I'm going to touch on the precocial habit of dotterel chicks. And actually we can see a range of chicks here from just after hatching 3 days and one that's nearly 3 weeks old. Precocial chicks are highly developed on hatching, which enables them to leave the nest and begin self-feeding shortly after emergence. They do sleep after hatching, and then we see that as they wake, they demonstrate a pecking reflex. So for them, the self-feeding is a journey of learning and discovery. They start like they peck at everything, and then over time they understand what is food and what isn't. It's trial and error. Actually, round about the 4-week mark, they've got the acquisition of food sussed. And we see them, they do this massive growth spurt and they suddenly end up adult sized. So we see this interesting pattern in captivity reared birds, of which there haven't been many, that with accessible and abundant food, they grow much faster. But what we do know is in captivity, they eat an enormous amount of insect matter. And this is significant in the cost to the people that are rearing them. So next, please. Okay, we are going to look at data. So we've got a body of nest outcomes of over 600 nests. We are currently processing our latter years of data. But this slide from 2021-22 season does give us some clues. Now, okay, we're going to look at the human bit, which I thought was going to be massive, and of course is remarkably insignificant when compared to predation. Another thing about doing research over time, we become more capable and we become more clever at finding outcomes. One thing that's been incredibly helpful for us is to rake an area, a small area on the outside of the beach, on the outside of the nest, so it's really smooth. And this, we can actually see the pattern of predation. We can often see who it is. And this, in AI, is going to continue to make this easier. Now, I'm also going to point your attention to the abandoned nests. There is a big investment for a dotterel pair in even a single nest. It takes a lot for them to abandon, but when we see those abandoned nests, it ticks us off to that there is extreme predator attention. The other thing that we can look for, it requires 2 birds to incubate a nest. So they can be red flags that we may have lost an adult bird. Next, please. So you can see we have our cats and we have more cats than we expect because we've got better at recognising them. So banded dotterels have the capacity to re-nest after nest failure, and we see in some rare cases a female can make as many as 5 nest attempts in a season. So this actually stretches the banded dotterel season from late winter through to midsummer. Now, next, please. I'd just like to go through a little bit of fledgling data because this is what we're looking for. Our outcomes, we want them to be fledglings. And what we see, this is data from 2022, it takes between 10 and 20 nesting attempts for a pair to raise a fledgling, which of course is shocking. This also assumes that all fledglings do recruit into our system, and we're not seeing that. And also, obviously, we do have death of adult birds, so that's also part of the concern. Okay, so next, please. Okay, we actually see, this is a little bit of data that's been analysed. The red indicates our nest failure. So we've got the time we've got the number of nests on the y-axis, and we have time for seasonal nesting at the bottom. The red indicates the loss of nests. The blues indicate the chicks that got killed in the nesting, in the chick phase, and the yellows are our gold. They're our fledglings. We have and we can see that this fledgling concern, which was clearly indicated in 2022, has extended to the present. Now, we have a weird season in 22 to 23 where we got 17 fledglings, and we have no explanation to that, and we were not doing anything different. Can I have another slide, please? Okay, so what do we do when it's raining cats and dogs and quad bikes on the beach? Okay, so we'll have a new slide, please. We've had a welcome response from the district council. So in the last, halfway through the last season, we actually have had mandatory cat chipping and snipping come in, but we've also taken that piece of the early nesting where if birds are successful, they're not going to keep that dotterel nesting month after month after month after month. If they've got a fledgling, they can go and take a break. So we're hoping that we can use leads on dogs, and we've got these beaches closed to all vehicles other than emergency rescues, and this is until December. So we really hope this is going to make a difference. We don't think it's enough because truly we need mandatory cat containment, particularly nocturnal, and it's a major issue for us. We are ribbon development of a highly mobile community. So I'm just going to, next please, one more slide on this. International research does show the importance of marking nests on coastal sites. So surprisingly enough, we came up with ourselves randomly with the recommended model. We are using metal waratahs and orange string. If anyone has any questions, please do bring them to me personally. Next, please. So it's taken us such a long time to get to the place of bylaw, and it's really, really important that we maintain pressure and advocacy over time. So one of the joys of doing this research is that we recognise birds have individual traits. Some are feisty and aggressive too amongst themselves, some are quiet and retreating, and just some defy the odds and consistently fledge chicks despite what looks like there is no difference in the number of threats and the number of disturbances. So these two sites here, we have Kaikoura on the left and the Cass Delta on the right. Luke Hertel has done a deep dive into our data and compared our site for territory and partner fidelity to Pearce's study of 1980. Both sites, we see that territorial fidelity rests strongly with the males, less so with the females, and she is loyal to her partner. Now, we saw that through each nesting season where both birds show strong pair fidelity. However, Cass saw it, but we haven't, that over successive seasons, this connection between a particular individual pair will actually fade over time. So they would have perhaps multiple partners over time, and their partner choice depends on who is available at the particular time that they are looking. This is particularly so for a female. Next, please. We also have, we always see an exception to the rule. Here is a long-studied bird, red, yellow. She's one of our oldest individuals. In 2018, she lost her mate in the first round. So she went on to make 4 following nests, and they were each with different partners. Now, it's important that the partner is compatible. This is a bit like humans, but they need to do the parenting duties together. So we actually saw once she got to her 5th nest, it was like, aha, this is the moment. She is going to remain loyal to the 5th partner. And actually, this is what she did. So I'm hoping that I'm not running out of time, nearly there.
No, you're bang on. Yeah.
Being on, great. So we wouldn't be able to do this without banding. It's critical for a study. Almost all our nesting adults are coloured banded, and all chicks that hatch are banded with a unique metal band. This enables us to recognise a recruit is locally produced, and we also know something about their whakapapa. So the question is, are we seeing a decline in the number of adult nesters? It's actually not clear because any vacant territory appears to be filled with a new recruit, some with metal bands, but quite a few without. We don't know the origin of these birds. We also know that we have many unbanded birds arrive for the post-breeding molt, and many unbanded birds arrive for the off-season migration. They come to Kaikoura. We don't know who they are. Next, please. So we have had trackers and some resightings of our birds. Not a lot of them. We know their migration destination. We think about a third of our birds do actually tend to remain. Now you can see that our birds went north, but one of them went on a winter holiday to the Rakaia Bridge. So we had a can I have next slide, please? In May, we had May 2024, we had a particularly unusual sighting, locally called in 171 dotterels in a cow paddock. We were able to follow them for about a week, and there were several of our resident combos that we hadn't realised they were residents. So this flock does to be quite mobile and distinct from the flocks that we know, which suggests there are winter foraging and roosting sites we're still to discover. Now, we've got a little bit of studying on the genome that's happening in collaboration with Doc and Max Planck. So our preliminary results are showing that Kaikoura and Kaiteriki birds are genetically quite similar. However, when we look at Motueka, they're genetically really different. And even though there's not much difference in distance between the two comparison sites, so what we are definitely seeing is that the main divide is a genetic block for genetic exchange and also Cook Strait. There's more to come. We've got 3 more years of that study. So my closing point is that through the predator combo, we're seeing many, it might differ in different locations coastally. We're seeing many places in New Zealand experiencing outcomes like ours. We know that banded dotterel is environmentally diverse. It shows incredible vulnerability at the same time. It continues to fail on the coast as a result of mammalian predation. We would suspect robust predator control is also required to protect all birds in the Braided River space. It is of deep concern that we've been unable to protect one of the most resilient shorebirds elsewhere. And of course, I've got a whole lot of acknowledgements. So next, thank you so much.